Stitch People. Welcome to the Stitch People podcast. I'm Lizzie Bean, your host and the founder of Stitch People, where our goal with cross-stitching is to ignite your personal creativity, and our goal with the podcast is to help you make some new friends while you're at it. Today's episode is with Alejandra Connor. She is so talented and such a cool lady with so many great stories. Her background is fascinating. You'll find out she's from Argentina. She now lives in the UK. I won't spoil how she got there. You're just going to have to listen. But she walks us through her really cool career working events at a 5-star hotel to being a stay-at-home mom of 3. We talk about all the things she loves and the great advice and thoughts she has for sort of bridging that gap between the professional and personal life. So great. Such great advice and such a great conversation. I hope you enjoy. Alejandra, thank you so much for coming on the Stitch People podcast. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Tell us where you're from, where you are in the world today as we have our conversation.
I was born and I grew up in Buenos Aires in Argentina. And then I met my now husband. He was a backpacker. So we met in a hostel, actually.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Was he in Argentina?
He was in Argentina.
Okay.
He went backpacking for a whole year, and his first stop was Argentina. And I was so stressed with work that I took just 1 week off, and I went to this beautiful place called Iguazu, which is in between Brazil.
Is that the waterfalls?
The waterfalls, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So we met there. It was very, very low season. I think there was about 7 of us in the hostel. And so we got chatting, and then he kept on traveling, and I went back to life. And we kind of emailed for a year. He kept sending me lessons from all over the world, and it was really cool. And then we ended up moving into England. We always said when we want to, he actually moved to Argentina with me. We lived there for a year and a half. And then we said one day when we want to get married and like settle and children and everything, let's move to England. So
is he from England? Is he from the UK?
He's from Manchester. So he's from the north of England. Yeah. So I've been here for almost 15 years now.
Wow. What a wonderful story. That's so romantic. I have for those who may be familiar with Disneyland or Disney World, there's this ride soaring over the world, and there you go. I was going to say they take you to the castle in Germany or Switzerland that the Cinderella's castle's built on. They take you to all these places around the world, and one of them, I believe, is Iguazu Falls.
Oh, is it?
In the soaring over the world. I know there's a big waterfall. I think it's Iguazu Falls.
It might be. Yeah, maybe.
Cool.
It's used in lots of movies. It's in Indiana Jones and in all sorts of movies. So it's beautiful.
How is it in real life? Is it just stunning?
Oh, it's amazing. I actually have a photo somewhere here behind me over there. It's amazing. And you can do so many different activities too. So the picture I have there, they take you in a little boat and you get right under the waterfall.
Wow.
So you're just drenched and you think the next thing we're going to touch is a rock behind the waterfall. But you get to see different animals, and there's like butterflies everywhere and rainbows because of the effect between, the light and the water falling. And I went there when I was about 5, and I just remember thinking it was absolutely magical. And I always wanted to go back. And the next time I went, I met my husband. It was magical.
That's like double magic. Yeah. Is it on the Amazon? Is it
No, it's not.
Okay.
No.
I'm trying to picture where, you know what I mean? All the rainforests and the rivers.
Yeah,
and
no. The Amazon is it's further north. It's more into Brazil and going into Venezuela. And here is just kind of between Argentina, Paraguay, and Brazil. You have the it's like a triple frontier, I think they call it. It's just like a border between the 3 countries. So you stand in one point and you can see, the 2 countries. Yeah, it's really cool.
That's cool. We've got that in the U.S., the 4 corners, where I believe it's Utah, Colorado, New Mexico, and Arizona meet all at a 90-degree angle. Okay. So you can have a foot and an arm in a different country.
Yeah.
If you lay right on top.
Yeah,
so
and it's
similar.
Kind of,
that's cool.
From the Brazilian side, they always say you see the postcard. So if you cross there to the national park, you see all the beautiful waterfalls, but from the Argentinian side, you are actually in them. So you can walk through them. Yeah,
that's so cool. And you just happened to be there the same time that your husband was there, and it changed the course of your whole life.
I booked the trip like 2 days before. I just was so stressed at work, and my boss was like, I think you need to take a week off. And I was saying I was just coming to ask you for a week off.
I'm out of there.
So yeah,
it's great.
So I just went to this. Yeah. Oh gosh, I could have a whole podcast just telling the story of how I met my husband.
Oh, that is so cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so you stay in touch. You decide to get married. You decide to move to the UK. Had you ever been to England before?
I've been once. The thing is, I always had such a soft spot for England because age 12, I became the biggest fan of a pop band called Take That. So they were like the British New Kids on the Block.
Amazing.
So yeah, and I mean, they weren't popular at all in Argentina, but I loved them, and I learned English just to understand what they were singing about. And I was with a dictionary, kind of translating word by word, and yeah. So then
that's adorable.
Well, the first thing I told him when I met him was, "Where about in England are you from?" And he said Manchester. And I was like, "Oh my God, she's like Take That." And he was like, "You mean the band that split up 10 years ago?" You're talking about them.
Like, yes, them. Very important.
The thing was, the year after I met my husband, the band actually got back together. So I bought a ticket from Argentina to go and see them in Manchester. And I stayed at my in-laws now. So I stayed
full circle. That's amazing.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I'm so obsessed with that. I was big into the Backstreet Boys myself. But I know the level of interest of which you speak, and you know all about them and where they're from, and it's a whole thing. Yeah. So and that can leave a huge impact, and you learned English for that. I mean, how cool that it was a British band that you sort of had this reference point for speaking English, which then led you to Britain again with a British spouse. That's just amazing.
Just because I like that band, then I started listening to more British music. So I like bands like Oasis and Blur, it was the 90s a while ago. And I was one day when I have the money, I want to go to London. I'm not going to die before visiting London.
Love that. And now you pretty much live there.
Yeah.
Where are you in Manchester now?
No, we live just outside of London.
Oh, just outside of London. Perfect. Yeah. Perfect. So you even live in London, pretty much. Yeah. That's awesome.
So where we are is called Ickenham. So I have 3 tube lines that take me to the city centre in half an hour. So yeah, it's perfect.
That's the dream, to be of the city, but not in the city.
Yeah, exactly.
It's an intense city. It can be if you're right in the heart of it.
Absolutely. No, for raising children is great. We used to live closer to the city centre before, but properties are so expensive. Like you get so little land for your money in this country, because it's such a small island and so many people live here. So we used to rent a little apartment, and we said, no, we actually want a garden. We want a bit more space. So we moved.
Gotta have room.
But we're so well connected here, so we loved Ickenham.
Yeah, I mean, a half-hour tube ride, that's nothing. You can just pop in and see a show or meet some friends or whatever. That's great. Best of both worlds. Oh, I love that. So tell us, you've been in the UK for 15 years, you say?
Almost, yeah.
Wow. Do you miss Argentina?
I do, but it's after being away for so long. You're not from here, not from there in a way. You know what I mean? It's like I miss things from there, but I wouldn't see myself living there again full time.
Right.
It's
like,
So of course I miss my family. I miss the weather. I miss the food. God, I miss the food. but I also love so many things from here. It's a lot safer, and it's a lot more stable. You can save money, and inflation is not as terrible as it's over there. And I won't get into politics, but
Well, I mean, like you said, ideal or not, stability is something. That's huge. Are there any restaurants that you can scratch the itch when you're in need of some Argentinian food?
Well, my husband, he learned how to make amazing barbecues.
Oh, so we actually at home.
It's not that common here. Most people have gas barbecues, but we have a proper one. So he buys his charcoal and he grills Argentinian style. And we have there's a couple of Argentinian shops, not that many, but you can get the right cuts of meat.
Good.
I was going
to say, you see those little specialty stores every once in a while for different places. And that's good. You've got access to that. Because that can really change. That can really help when you have access to foods that you're used to or products that you're used to, and just to keep your heart at home a little bit.
Definitely.
And now, so you mentioned learning English with your band that you loved. So you speak Spanish and English.
Yes.
Are you raising, you mentioned you have kids, right?
Yeah, we have 3 daughters.
Oh, 3
They asked me to mention them.
Oh, we will talk all about them. Are
So
you raising them bilingual?
Well, that was the plan, but it didn't go.
I hear it's a lot harder. It's a lot easier said than done, that it's harder to do once you're in it.
Yeah, with the first one, she's 10 now. So I used to speak a lot in Spanish to her, and she understands it, but she struggles to speak in Spanish.
Hey, that's better than nothing, though.
She speaks beautiful English, though. She sounds just like Hermione. She's just like a little Harry Potter, perfect English. Oh, I love it. The other 2 who are 7 and 5, they don't speak any Spanish at all. I can say anything. They just get a few words that I use constantly.
Well, maybe as they get into, from primary school into secondary school, they can pick it up there or something if they want.
Yeah, and to be fair, before COVID, we used to go and visit once a year. So they were exposed to Spanish and they would, try to make the effort. And now we're actually going in 10 days, but it's been 4 years since we'd last been there.
Oh, that's so soon. Oh, are you so excited?
So, yeah, I know. I'm a bit, I'm excited.
Yeah.
I need to get there.
Yeah, nervous. It's a lot of people to travel with.
It's a lot of people to travel with, and it's a lot of people there. You want to see everybody. There's never enough time. Children
How many
get tired.
days will you be there?
We'll just 2 weeks.
2 weeks. Okay.
Yeah.
That's hefty, but like you said, especially if you're catching up after 4 years, that's going to fly by. But
I know. The thing is, everybody will be jet lagged for a couple of days. So
that's a big time difference, isn't it? Is there a direct flight?
There are, yes, but, they were pre-COVID. Now, a few times a week, they go direct. Other times, they stop in Brazil for a couple of hours, but you don't even have to leave the plane, apparently.
Oh, nice. It's so kind of direct.
Yeah.
Same plane.
Yeah, but it's a long flight, though. It's without stops, it's 14 hours. So it's going to be about, 15 plus with the stop. So we'll see how we go.
Yeah. Oh, man. Good luck. I hope you have such a good time. It'll be great to see family and catch up, I'm sure. The last few years really have messed things up for people. That's putting it lightly. But, man.
My sister came last summer, so I saw my sister and one of her children. And then we met in Disney in Orlando in 2019 with my sister and her family. So, I've seen her twice, but I haven't seen my parents since 2018.
Oh. So, are you able to keep in touch, I'm sure, with FaceTime and Zoom and that kind of stuff? That's good. Better than nothing, I guess. Well, tell us a little bit more about what being in the UK has been like for you. Did you moved there after sort of being together with your partner, right? Were you married when you finally moved?
No, we came ready to be married. So I came with it's a fiancé visa.
Yeah.
So I came, but I had to get married within 6 months, and then I had to apply for the next visa.
Got to marry the love of your life.
Yeah, no, and we were planning it. So that's what we said. Let's marry because we want to get married and not married just so one of us got the right to live in the other one's country. So,
right.
We came here. So for the first 6 months, I couldn't work or even look for a job because of my visa. It wouldn't allow me to do that. So you had to.
Interesting.
Yeah, I know. It's not like the movies, that people say.
I mean, you think one would think that you'd almost want to encourage that just so that somebody gets more, almost a little bit like more ingratiated and like contributing and like, because if you've got a job there, you're going to be paying taxes there. And if you're on a fiancé visa, then theoretically you're going to be getting married and building a life anyway.
Yeah, and we had to prove that we had been together for at least 2 years, and we had to present proof. So we had, I was like, how do you prove this? So we had like reservations of flights and things like that I've shown. And we both put on so much weight since we were together. So I could show through photos, look how much we changed. Yeah, it's been a long time. So we had like, family events like, I don't know, Christmas or weddings. So we just made like a photo album and, send that to prove that we were a couple. So that was fun. So anyway, I couldn't work here for the first 6 months. But also I've been diagnosed with a condition a month before I moved. It's called Meniere syndrome.
Oh,
so it's a problem in the, it's something in the inner ear.
Oh.
So Yeah, so I have tinnitus, so it's a constant ringing, but it can make you dizzy and you lose your balance. And so I wasn't doing very well when we first moved in. So I always thought those 6 months that I know I cannot work, I'm going to be the best tourist ever. I'm going to know everything. I'm going to go everywhere, and I couldn't do any
because you had to stay
barely leave
home
the
and
house.
rest.
Yeah.
Oh,
It was
that's disappointing.
I know, but as soon as I could look for a job, I was feeling better.
Good.
And so I used to work for a 5-star hotel in Buenos Aires, and I tried to get a job with the same chain here. And I was so lucky that the general manager that I had in Argentina, he then moved to Sydney, and then he moved to London, and he was Colombian.
And he knew you already.
Yes, it was amazing. I worked so closely with him in Buenos Aires, and I was doing events and groups, and I managed some of his groups, and I also work in marketing, and there was a whole rebranding. So
wow.
It was like, I cannot believe it. Somebody told me from Buenos Aires, said, look, he's moving there. So I sent him an email and said, look, before the competitors, steal me, I'm going to give you the chance to give me a job and work for you again.
I love that. I love that framing too of like, I will give you first dibs on me and my skills. Yes. Awesome. And he took it, I'm assuming.
He just gave my CV to human resources, and then I got an interview for the events department, which is something that I've done in Buenos Aires. And I love my boss; he was amazing. So
that's so nice. It's so refreshing when you work with people that you jive with and get along with, and that you enjoy and get along well. I mean, that can make or break. Sometimes it almost doesn't even matter what you're doing, as long as the team that you're doing it with is a good team. So that's wonderful.
Yeah, definitely. And also it was quite, it was like an entry-level job, I would say, but I was just a coordinator. So I was doing a lot of the admin at first, which was great because for me it was changing my head from, I had to learn all these words in English now. I knew what everything was, but there was like, I don't know, a flip chart or a lectern.
Right.
They're all completely different in all the languages. So you go like,
and there's different like industry speak. Like you can be conversant in a language in the day-to-day stuff, like catching up with people or going out shopping, but to have like corporate speak or specific jargon for business or even hospitality, I'm sure is just a whole extra set of vocabulary.
Yeah, I would think I know exactly what you're talking about now. I just don't know what the right word.
Right, exactly.
So that was great because on that job, I was kind of exposed to, the jargon and everything. And then I started doing some events, and I started helping the director of society events at the hotel. So these were like almost like high society events.
Okay,
so
tell us more.
Yeah, that was great. So there was lots of charity events or really, really high profile events. So here in England, I was briefly mentioning before, I met some members of the royal family. Of course, I didn't get to talk to them or anything, but I was in the same room as them.
But you got to see them and see that they're real.
Yeah. With Prince Harry, he came to an event that he was a patron of a charity called Well Child. So he was coming every year. And I knew he would eventually walk through this certain corridor that I was standing there. But I thought security will come and they will kick us all out before he comes, I'm sure. So I won't be able to see him. And he just walked there. So as I was saying good evening to everyone, I was like, good evening, good evening. I just looked at him and I kind of choked because I thought, what's the protocol here? I cannot just say good evening to a prince. I was like, and he looked at me.
Hey.
He carried
he did?
I was like, oh my God, it's him. Yeah, he was much taller than I thought.
Wow. Interesting. When was that?
This would have been, let me think, 2011 maybe?
Okay,
2010.
all right. So pre-Meghan, all the family drama.
When we used to like him.
Right. Oh, poor Harry.
No,
part of me reads all these headlines about him coming out, and part of me doesn't really care. It's like there are bigger issues in the world than family drama, essentially. But then there's this part of me that's like, yeah, it must be really hard to be kind of the second in line and to be sort of overlooked as such. And then I'm like, but also monarchies have been operating that way for like hundreds of years. So it's not like he's the first one, but that also doesn't make it easier for him. So there's this part of me that kind of like feels for him because that's a hard situation. And especially in a society where like monarchies aren't really a thing like they used to be.
Mm.
So you sort of want the normalcy of a family, but you still have this big expectation. I'm sure it's very confusing, but also go away. We don't need a book and a podcast and a show.
Yeah, I feel for him in a way, but it's, you need to learn how to zip it sometimes.
Right, just like, I was telling Spencer, I was like, I feel like the Oprah interview would have been enough, but the fact that we have like the interview and the series and the book and whoever knows what, it's like, just stop. Stop. I just go, live your life. Anyway. Oh, Prince Harry, how funny. So he's taller than you would have thought. Yeah. Who else have you been, privy to, adjacent to?
We did the Wimbledon Champions final.
Cool.
So, and the year that I was doing it, Rafael Nadal won in Spain. And he was there with his family and they didn't speak English. So I ended up doing kind of a simultaneous translation to his uncle, who was also his trainer. So he was really famous. Like, he saw me laughing at some speech and he was like, do you understand what they're talking about? I said, yeah. He was like, can you translate for me, please? Because I don't. So just
have you told us this story in like an event Sip and Stitch? I feel like I've heard this story before. And I think that is so cool. Because it was his uncle spoke Spanish.
Yes.
Yeah, so there you were.
Speak English, and then his mom lost her handbag, and I ended up. I was just looking for it everywhere, and I ended up under the table, and I found Rafa Nadal, who had just won Wimbledon, doing the same thing, and I thought, this is bizarre. I'm getting paid. This is my life. So that was super fun. And then when I was doing it in Argentina, we had lots of football teams.
Oh wow!
So I met Diego Maradona, for example.
I don't follow, so I don't know these names, but I will trust you that they are big.
He was like the number one player in, cool. a long time ago. Yeah, he was amazing. And we had like the Brazilian football team when it was in its heyday. So it was so much fun. Yeah. I met a couple of American actors too, not that many, but just a couple of them.
Sure. I mean, that would make sense if you have like a premiere or a screening or a festival or something and have a big event after some kind of, awards thing or. Yeah.
So coming back to the original question, that time of my life living here in England was so much fun because we were such a big team too. So we were going on nights out all the time. And it was, the team working was so big that you were never overworked that much.
Nice.
The same job in Argentina, we were like 2 of us doing everything. And here there was like 8 of us for the same job. So we didn't have mobile phones to take home before. My phone would be ringing all the time, weekends, nights, anytime, any issues, they would call me. Well, here in London, you just turn the computer off, you go home. There's all the members of the team taking over. So it was really happy times. And then I got babies, so it wasn't compatible with working. So we said we always wanted them to be bilingual. So we thought, I'm going to stay home. And to be fair, we don't really have any help around. My husband's family live about 3 hours away. So, for special occasions, you can arrange something. But other than that,
you can't just call grandma to come hang for the night or something.
Exactly. Yeah. So since then, I've been a full-time mom.
That's great. And I'm sure just as difficult of a job, if not more.
Yeah. I'd rather deal with Prince Harry than with 3 kids.
Wow, that is so cool. So you've been full-time momming. You said your oldest was like 10?
10. Yeah.
So 10 years or so since your first.
It doesn't feel like 10 years. It feels like 2 or 3, but it's been 10 years. Yeah.
Wow. That's so cool. And 3 girls. Okay, so they wanted you to talk about them. Tell us about tell us about your little ladies. What are they like? What are they into?
Their names. I said they are so lovely. My sister always says they're like the Spice Girls because they have 3 completely different personalities.
Oh, fun.
So we had Mia, who is 10. She loves reading. You find her with a book all the time. She's just she does so well at school. She just loves to learn. She wanted to be an astronaut. She did a few cross-stitching too. I posted a couple of photos of her a long time ago.
Oh, wow.
Sophia, who is 7, going on 3. She's like the baby. She's tiny and she likes anything princess, unicorn, rainbow. And then Lily's the boy we never had, bless her. She's 5 and she's just so strong and she's so physical.
Fun.
Yeah, she's super cute, but they're so different.
So you have
so
like a real academic bookworm, and then a real princessy girly girl, and then a real, for lack of a better phrase, tomboy, outdoorsy, sporty type. That's so fun. You're right. It is the Spice Girls. What would that be? I don't know, maybe a posh Spice, a sporty Spice,
baby
and
Spice.
Baby Spice. That's so great. Oh,
they're
how
very
fun.
cute. Yeah, the 7-year-old now keeps telling me she wants to do cross stitch. And I say her fingers, I think, are too small.
Well, we could get her started. I know sometimes I feel like Danielle in the Stitch People community will do she'll either draw or stitch an outline on Aida fabric and then give her girls whatever color they want, whatever thread they want to just sort of fill in how they want. So it can be a little abstract and scratch the itch without, having the precision of cross stitching. But it sounds like your oldest enjoys it, at least to an extent.
She did a couple of pieces,
Cool. So tell us about how you got into cross stitching. Have you always been a stitcher or crafter?
When I was very young, my sister, she's 10 years older than me. And I remember her and my mum doing, it wasn't cross stitch though. It was, instead of thread, it was with wool,
Interesting.
And it's like half crosses. So they would buy this fabric that was kind of pre-printed, and then you would go over, over each color with you. So it was different. And I remember one time mentioning cross stitch and my mum telling me, it's too difficult, don't even go there. It's too complicated. So I always had that idea of, I'm not going to do it. And I mentioned it to my sister, and she was like, what are you talking about? It's the same as what we do, but then you come back and you...
you just cross it 2 times.
I was like, are you sure? She was like, yeah, of course. I was like, I'll give it a go. So then once I was living in England, on those 6 months that I couldn't do anything, I couldn't go anywhere, I got a kit, and I actually started, and I loved it, and I was hooked.
Perfect.
But I only thought I could use this to the kits, that come with pre-made.
Yeah.
So many years after, I was taking my eldest to a play group here in a church, and they were selling secondhand books, and there were some books by somebody called, what's her name? Is Jo Verso. So it was. She had different elements that you could use to create your own cross stitch. And I thought, oh my gosh, I can make my own thing. I have different animals, different bits and bobs that I can combine. And then as I started investigating more, I came across your books, and I was like, yeah, this is just
fun. Good.
So then I bought the second edition book, the DIY one, and that's it. I've been hooked.
Oh, I love it. I love to hear it. It's interesting how common it is. And it's like there's no judgment in it. It's just it's so easy to assume that, you go to a craft store, you get the kit, has the pattern, has everything you need, and that's what cross stitch is. And because it's been packaged that way for us so nicely, a lot of people I find have the exact same experience as you, where it's like that's what I was until, I started like, oh yeah, I could do my own thing. And you pull out the graph paper and start kind of playing around with it. But it's almost kind of liberating to realize like, oh, I can do my own thing with this. Was it?
Yeah, I love how flexible it is because,
I was going to say, what was it specifically that appealed to you about, like you said, the books that you initially got and piecing your own thing together? What sort of piqued your interest in all that?
Well, when I was pregnant with my first daughter, I got a kit it was a Humpty Dumpty. So I did that one for her. So then for the second one, I thought I can do whatever I want because I have all these different elements. It came with the whole baby section. So I just did that one just for a change. With the third one, bless her, I never had the time. So she didn't get her cross stitches. You need to make one. But then I liked the idea that I could make these family portraits.
Yeah.
So I thought I can definitely, I love how you had all the different hairstyles and all the different, subtle changes between one and the other. I was like, I don't know, I really like how I could make it my own. Yeah. And then even now I make my, my patterns, and then as I'm stitching, I just change or I add things or I made that one for the Platinum Jubilee that I sent to the Queen.
That's
and
right.
I put a letter back. Yeah.
The Queen.
Yeah, and somebody asked me, somebody said, "Oh, can you, do you have the pattern?" I was like, I don't even understand it myself now because I drew something and I just changed things as I went. I don't even know what colors I use or,
Right. A pattern can really be more of like a starting point or like a foundation that you sort of build on top. Yes. I remember, did yours had the corgis in it, right?
I made one that was the coronation day.
Oh, on the throne. That's right. I remember there was a couple people who did.
Yeah, and she had a little corgi too, but I made her like the day of the coronation, then her as an old lady. And I got letters back from Buckingham Palace and all that. It was super exciting.
Wow. Yeah, and yours had the big what's that fur? The white fur with the little black specks in it. Yeah. Okay. Yes, I remember now. That was a beautiful portrait.
Yeah, it was
with the crown and all the things. Oh,
I like that how I can, use it as a starting point. Use the books and then you can create whatever. Because I thought I just need her sitting down. So I went to the wedding book that I knew they had somebody sitting down, and this wasn't a bride, but I could get the position, and then I just started mixing and matching, and I just love that.
Totally. Yeah. Yes. Oh, yes. Preach. That's totally it. And we, we'll get questions from people about like, oh, you don't have my specific dog breed, or, oh, I need a person in this specific pose, in this specific outfit. And it's like, well, it's just what you said. We're like, well, we have the pose and we have the outfit. And so it's like, we encourage you to kind of put them together if you can, because everybody's portrait needs are so different. It would be impossible to design a pattern for every eventuality. And so that's why the DIY book is really geared at like taking the pieces you need and mashing them together, to make it just right.
I'm always using the wedding one for all sorts of different things. I remember there was different positions of people holding each other in different ways, the mom and the daughter. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to take ideas from there and mix it with something from this other one. And
brilliant.
Sometimes
so good.
It works.
So
sometimes
smart.
It doesn't, but it usually works.
The weddings book really is a diamond in the rough too, because I'm thinking about it. It's got a lot of technique up at the front, like photos of different stitches and stuff. But then because of your bridal party where you have a bunch of adults, but then you also have often like little ring bearers and flower girls, things like this. So you have adults and children in various poses. And then there's a ton of really interesting accessories that work in the day-to-day too, from like a cake to a chair to a floral, which could be, like you said, you could use the chair from the wedding book or like the chair pose in a queen portrait or while it's geared towards weddings in that specific pattern, it definitely is a lot of the elements in that book are sort of more day-to-day stuff if you take the wedding sheen off of it. So I think that's really, really smart.
Thank you.
Really cool choice there. That's that's really great. That's the thing about Stitch People is if you are creative, you can get by on probably fewer patterns than you think. That's not being a good businesswoman, because I should be like, no, buy all the patterns, buy everything from us, give us your money. But like really, if you look, if you can look past a genre of something, you can often find what you need in interesting places. That's very cool. So you've been stitching family portraits since, let's see.
I started about, was it 2018, I think.
Nice. Okay. All right. So going on 5 years. Pretty cool. Right?
Yeah.
2022. Yeah. Fifth year. That's great. So are you still stitching family portraits on the regular? How do you stitch? Do you stitch mostly for yourself as gifts? Do you take commissions? Tell us a little bit about your crafty life.
I take commissions, but not as many as I should, or enough to call it a business.
Sure.
So,
a little side hustle.
I offer them some. Well, the other time I got the commission from Tasmania. So there was this girl, I was like, how did you find me? She was like, well, I was just looking and I found you. So she commissioned a piece and I sent it to Tasmania and she got it.
Great.
So sometimes it happens. Yeah. It's just weird. But no, I do lots of family, or if there's a wedding, people now know they're going to get a stitch from me.
Perfect. What a great way to commemorate family events.
Yeah, or I made one of my family now to take to my parents. I never made one for them. And I just posted something in the group today. Because the thing is, my brother passed away 5 years ago, unfortunately. And my dad always said we never had a family photo with, him and my youngest daughter, because she she was born.
Yeah. And then
he passed away when she was about 3 months old. So, but I always thought, how can I stitch this in a way that it's not about, he's not there, but he's here. So I just tried to group the people in a different way. So I did like a family tree, and I thought perfect because I have 3 kids. He had none. So kind of my youngest falls right underneath him. So He doesn't look, lonely.
Yeah.
And then I split the group. Like I didn't put myself with my husband and my children and my sister with, I kind of mix and match. So I put my parents in the middle, and then I put me, my sister, my sister-in-law. So kind of the grown-up ladies, and then all the grown-up girls on one side. And then I did the same thing with the men. So I think that'll be really nice. And I know my dad would really like it. I know we're all going to cry. But that's coming with me. So I like doing that kind of, thing too. But I had, there was a local woman one time here in a local Facebook group looking for a present for a 70th, I think it was. So I said, look, I can do something like this if you like. So she asked me to make a family tree for her family. And then she was like, oh, can you actually make now she's a family group of my sister-in-law because it's her birthday. So she's her with her husband and kids. Yeah. And she was like, oh, but I want one for myself now. So can you make me with my husband and my kids?
Perfect.
So that's usually how it goes. I may have like a few orders in a row because somebody liked it and, they asked for more. And then there may be months where I'm just stitching for me or my family or, I do Christmas ornaments and...
That's great. And what a great vote of confidence that someone would come back for more and more and more because they like them so much. That's great. Yeah,
that happened a couple of times. So I always feel like, well, it's, it is nice. People do like them. So.
And how wonderful too. I love that about Stitch People, the creative ways that stitchers integrate loved ones. I remember one of the podcast interviews I did just a couple weeks ago, a similar story. It wasn't someone that had passed, but kind of everybody lives in a different country. And so it's really hard to get everybody together for like a family photo or something. So they don't have any photos with everybody all together. And, but you can stitch a portrait of everyone all together. And that's pretty special. And you can get everybody in there, the yours, mine, and ours, and pets that have passed or people that have passed, and everybody can
we
be a
always
part
used
of
to take these huge family photos with, I'm one of 4, so, and 3 of us are married and have children, so when we get together it's like
growing and growing.
All these melting people. My poor husband comes up with a migraine every time we go. We're all so loud. But no, it's nice to have, something with all of us, I think.
Yeah. Oh, that's so great. So are you the only crafty one kind of in your family? Oh, no. You already told us this, that your mom and your sister did the non-cross-stitch cross-stitching. So do they still stitch?
Well, not really stitching, but my sister does something called Centangle, which is, it's like drawing all these patterns and then they color them. I don't know. She's always doing online classes and she's in all these communities.
So
and but every time I talk to her, she's like, I can't talk to you now. I'm going to a class. She loves it. It really helps her.
Awesome.
So she does that a lot now. And she's always been crafty too.
Cool. Awesome. So you've kind of come from creative roots and are able to keep that going.
Yeah. Yes, a little bit. Yeah. My mom, not so much. She makes the most beautiful drawings, my mom, but she never had that confidence to just draw more. But every time she made one, I always said, it's beautiful. You should do some for the children. She's more of a baker, I think, than a craftsman, my mom.
All righty. That's acceptable. We will take treats.
Always.
Love that. And so did your daughter sort of come to you, your oldest daughter who's cross stitches? Did she say, hey, I want to learn to do that? Or was it something that you specifically wanted to teach her?
She came. She came to me.
Cool.
Like, I want to do that. That looks like fun.
Oh, fun. Yeah. And how did that go? How old was she when?
So the first time, I think she must have been about 7.
Oh, nice.
So we bought a really small kit. It was like a unicorn, but it was quite difficult because I didn't realize when we bought it had lots of back stitching and half stitches. And so I don't think she ever finished it. So once I got Stitch People, we said, okay, we can create your own. So we made her as a little astronaut. She drew it herself. Yeah, I think we got it from the, how is it called? The fantasy book.
There's a little, the make-believe patterns for kids stuff and kids costumes.
It was so cute because she actually painted the frame too. So she has it in her bedroom. So it's really cute. That's the one she finished. Then she started one for Halloween that she never finished. And she started another one, I think, with a little soldier for Christmas she never finished. But she sometimes says, well, when can I sit down with you and keep going? And it's usually at the worst time. So it's tomorrow. But no, no, it came from her, definitely.
That's really cool how kids can, they're very observant, aren't they? They pick things up.
Yeah, I mean, with 3 girls, they love craft. They love painting. They love stickers and baking. And
it sounds like number 2 is getting interested in cross-stitching. Maybe not quite ready for it, but getting there. That's pretty cool. That's exciting.
Yeah, no, but we I don't know, we bake biscuits and then they all decorate them. And, I try to do, for Christmas, we go crazy. We get boxes of biscuits, teachers and neighbors, and just really cute. Yeah,
I love that.
So
I think a lot of people, thanks to the Great British Baking Show, perceive that people in England just bake all the time.
That's true.
But hey, there are worse things. It's hard not to, especially around the holidays. I think. I mean, we talked about it before that one of the biggest things you miss from Argentina is the food, and I think food can just immediately evoke. You eat certain things at certain times of the year and you have certain meals or treats for certain holidays, and it just like sinks you into the spirit of Christmas time or whatever it may be. Just like that.
I grew up with my mum baking all these biscuits for Christmas. So for me, the flavor of those biscuits is the flavor of Christmas. Yes. So it's lovely that now I'm making them with my children. And I always say, you have to make them with your children. Yeah. And, some recipes come from my aunts or my great aunts and my grandma, so it's really special. I feel like, they're not longer with us, but the flavors do kind of.
Do you have their recipes? That's in my family. We've got a couple recipes handwritten by, great grandmothers or great great grandmothers. And
my mom made me. She made me a little notebook and she hand wrote lots.
Well, hey, then your kids will have grandma's recipe cards. Yeah. That's great. Oh, how wonderful! Yeah. I love that.
Yeah, it's well.
Tell me this. I'm curious. You've had such a strong presence in a career world. You've had such a strong presence now in full-time mom world. What do you think, I'm sure your sense of self has changed in all of that and, who you are and what you do. What would you say? I mean, this is kind of a big question, but what would you say, would you have any advice or any thoughts about what it is to bridge that gap? Because I feel like a lot of people in the Stitch People community, we sort of have 2 groups of stitchers. We sort of have, for lack of a better phrase, a lot of grandmas who've been stitching since the 80s. They never stopped. And Stitch People's just, another step on their cross-stitch journey. And, now they're making presents for all the grandkids. And then we have a lot of, it's basically millennials. And we especially tend to get a lot of women who are stepping out of their careers and now they have more time at home and they're pregnant or they have a newborn. So they're kind of getting back into crafting, doing something for themselves. And so I'm just curious, what your thoughts are on that transition from career life to mom life and crafting and time for yourself and all of that. What works for you? What helps you stay grounded and centered? What does that look like?
I always really enjoy working. And I always said, when I have children, I'm never going to stop working. And here I am. So
here you are. That's interesting. Yeah.
Yes. And then when I found myself from, such a busy job, when I was working many hours and, it was quite intense. I really enjoyed it, but it was quite intense.
Yeah, that's a system that never sleeps.
Yeah, and the thing for me was also I changed jobs, so I moved to a different hotel. And on day 3, I found out that I was pregnant.
Oh, oops.
So I wasn't entitled to maternity leave. My health with my dizziness had come back with my ears. It was like, how is that going to play up with the pregnancy? So we said, look,
Lots
what? I won't take the job.
Yeah.
I'll just rest this pregnancy. We'll see how we go. So I found myself from like one day to the other. Okay, now I'm at home here, just waiting for this baby to be born. So once she was born and she started taking regular naps, I found myself with some time in my hands. So the first thing that I did was I got into genealogy. So I started doing her family tree because I thought I just sit down with the computer, I can use my brain. And I always say it was like writing and reading a book at the same time, because you're finding all this information and you're like
it's
writing.
It's very investigative too.
Oh, I loved it. I loved doing that. So that I felt that kept that part of me alive, of at least even sitting down with a computer. It's something that I don't really do anymore.
Yeah.
So that was like a good kind of transition, or helping me that I'm not just a mom. I can also use my brain, for something else. That is not, when's the last time she ate? Does she need a nappy change? It's a lot, especially with the first one. It's a lot.
Huge change.
And now the thing is, now that I have 3 kids, I cannot sit down and invest myself. I focus so much on doing something like a family tree, when you have to pay attention and follow, a lead and a thread and keep going, and you have to make sure you get it right. So that's why cross stitch is perfect, because I can sit down, do it for 10 minutes. Mommy, I want a biscuit. Okay, I can just go. Come back. Mommy, whatever. I can just put it down. It's not like paint that is going to dry, or if I'm baking something and it's going. That's why I love cross stitch, because it's, I can sit down
easy to pick up
hours.
Where you leave off. Yeah.
Yes, I can sit down for hours and hours and put something on TV and enjoy it, or I can have like 5 minutes now and then I go on the school run. Yeah. Usually I do that between lunch and school run.
Perfect.
That's how I stitch.
So are you a person who takes your stitching on the go? Like if you have a family beach day, or if you are waiting, drop off a kid at a piano lesson or whatever, and you're waiting in the car, do you take your stitching along with you?
I may take it more on holidays.
Okay.
I always do on holidays, and I take like a plastic wallet thing with the project that I'm working on, and my colors and a few supplies. And I've been stitching on planes for years now, buses, whatever.
Man, it can really help pass the time when you're traveling. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Oh, I like that. Okay, so it's cross stitching has sort of become the way that you do something for yourself, keep your creativity alive, keep your brain engaged in different ways. Because I have heard that. I mean, Spencer and I don't have kids yet, but a lot of my friends do, and they definitely say there's just parts of your brain that you don't use as a mom, that, professional interactions and critical conversations and, these kinds of things. And like you said, even just computers and data and this kind of stuff. So cross-stitching sort of gets that.
Yeah, the rhythm of your days completely changed. Yeah. I mean, now it was 9:30 when we met. I maybe wear my pajamas under this jumper.
That's the best part about the internet calls is, people don't know the comfy pants.
The thing is, before at 9:30, I may be coming back from work. It completely changes, and then they may be up at 7 a.m. Even on a Sunday. You need to do something with these kids. So it's good if they put something on the telly, or if they're coloring while you're cross stitching.
Yeah. And just sort of it's a way to have you time, but still be present with everybody. Yes. You can each be independent in the same space.
It's a perfect balance. Yes.
I love that. And hey, soon, if they're anything like I was, me and my friends as teenagers, they will be wanting to sleep in on Sundays too.
Cannot wait.
Sleeping in, oh man, that was my favorite.
Need a nanny. We need to be able to go out by ourselves, sometimes.
Right. Well, like you said, with your family so far away, you definitely gotta find somebody to help.
It's tricky to give 3 kids to somebody and say, "Can you please look after them?"
Good luck. Have fun.
Your own children. So usually we get my in-laws to come here and stay.
Nice.
And then
have a little extended grandma and grandpa time. So
it doesn't happen very often, but last year was fantastic. It was my 40th last year.
Oh, cool.
So my husband took me to the Netherlands to see this concert of there's a violin player called Andrew Rieu. He plays this beautiful band, like all the women wear these like princess dresses, and it's all like a beautiful fairy tale. So we went for one night. So we left home, we got to Eurostar. We got there, watched a show, had dinner. Day after, came back. It was like, well, we did it.
Sometimes that's enough, is to just take the chance and go.
Yeah, back in the day, you would have had like 2 nights, more relaxed. But, you have to.
Better than nothing. And a great adventure, it sounds like, for the people who met backpacking by the waterfall. Sounds like it's, a quick getaway is a great thing to do. Oh, that's so fun. Well,
Yeah.
Alejandra, in our last few minutes together, I'm going to give you some rapid fire favorite things questions. So just give us your gut answer about our little just extra getting to know you questions. So I always like to start with something easy. Can you tell us your favorite color?
Blue.
Any particular shade or hue?
Not really. No, maybe
Just
a dark
any blue.
blue.
You're a blue fan. I love
I
that.
like blue.
Okay, and tell us, you've talked about your childhood favorite band and going to see the violin player. Do you have a favorite band or musician right now that you're just crazy about?
Well, it's always Take That, or Robbie Williams, who used to be in Take That, and we went to see last year, and he was fantastic.
Oh, fun.
Really
You got
good.
to see him.
Yeah.
That's great. Okay. And do you have a favorite, in all your travels and adventures, favorite vacation destination?
I love Disney. I mean, we've been to, my husband will kill me. We went to the Maldives on our honeymoon for 2 weeks, and I still want Disney. And I love Italy. I could go back to Italy 20 times. We've been.
Where have you been in Italy?
Oh, we've been everywhere.
Everywhere. Okay. If somebody's visiting Italy for the first time, where would you say they should go? Well,
I love Rome.
Okay.
To me, Rome, it's like you walk around the museum because wherever you look, it's art, there's beauty, it's just fantastic. I love it. But we've been to Sicily, we've been to Venice, we've been to Tuscany, which has been everywhere. We went to Cinque Terre, which is a place that the movie Luca, the Pixar movie.
Yeah.
It's based on the town where we went, and we were looking at photos. We said, "This looks exactly."
They nailed it. Oh, how cool!
Yeah, no, I love it. I love the people in Italy, the weather, the food. It's amazing.
Okay, Italy, heavily endorsed. Love that. I'm curious, as a fellow Disney fan, what do you love so much about Disney World?
I think because you go and you're immersed in this fantasy. It's like you're not on planet Earth anymore.
Yeah.
I don't know. The first time I saw a parade, I didn't even have children, and I was making a video with my camera, and my camera started shaking because I started crying. It was like, why am I crying for Mickey Mouse?
Because it's so happy.
It's just so happy. Yeah, I mean, actually, after when my brother passed away in 2018, and the year after, that's why I went to Disney with my sister. She booked the trip, and she was like, "Come with us," and I just felt so happy for 2 weeks. It's like I would wake up and I was looking forward to all this magic. And I mean, of course, you have to get involved in the magic. You have to almost believe to make it extra special.
Yeah.
You may, I know it's hot. I know we're all sweating. I know it's humid. I know it rains and then the sun comes out. And it's humid. But I don't care about any of that right now. I just care about, seeing Tinkerbell, and I loved it. Yeah.
I love that. I think that's a perfect explanation on why it continues to appeal to people. It's a place that gives you permission to escape for a while and to just feel. Yeah, that's wonderful. Okay, so your favorite Disney park at Disney World? Which of the?
It has to be Magic Kingdom.
Magic Kingdom. Okay, classic. Love that. And do you have a favorite Disney character?
I don't think so. Well, actually, I like all them, like the fairy godmother and the three fairies from. I always like the ones that are kind of behind the scenes, making the dreams come true more than the actual scenes. I always like the fairies.
I love that so much. I feel like that says a lot about who you are in the most delightful way. That's so sweet. Because there is always somebody making it happen, and they're really kind of almost the most important part. So. If it wasn't for them. And they're magical and they can fly often. So what's not to love? That's great. Do you have a favorite book or book series? Are you much of a reader or audiobook listener?
Yeah, I mean, I go through phases. So I went through a phase of reading fantasy. So I read like Lord of the Rings and Narnia. And of course, all the Harry Potters, they were coming out because I'm that old. And now I'm more into like whodunits. So I read a bit of Agatha Christie, but I'm reading this series. It's so funny. There's they did a TV show actually. It's called Agatha Raisin.
Oh, I haven't heard of that. No.
It's super funny. She's used to be in public relations. My degree is in public relations too, so I can relate with her. But she sells her company in London and moved to the Cotswolds, to this small town, and she wants to just take part of the activity, the local activity. So she joins into this quiche competition for the first one, but she cannot bake, so she buys one. And of course, the judge dies from food poisoning. So she has to defend herself into saving her. They're really funny. They're all super funny.
That's great.
she's solving mysteries, but she's also having this love story with a neighbor.
Oh.
And, they're really funny. So I've been going through
Tell us the name
ones.
of that one more time.
It's called Agatha Raisin.
Like raisin, like raisins.
Raisin, yeah, like a raisin.
Like eating raisins. Little grape raisins. That is great. Agatha Raisin. It sounds like it's sort of a almost a satirical like play on Agatha Christie's. It's humorous and more modern and fun, but still mystery, which is great.
The show is really funny. It's funnier than the books, I think. Really good. Yeah.
I'll have to check that. I love those. I mean, I've watched all those mysteries. I love Rosemary and Thyme and Father Brown and Miss Fisher and all those. So sounds like I've got something to add to my list. So
and she lives in this beautiful town, so it's you'll love it.
Oh, great! It reminds me, I loved watching Doc Martin because of the town more than the story.
I don't know if you've ever seen that one. I've been to the town where they filmed it.
Oh, you have? It's right on the ocean. So gorgeous.
Yeah.
So beautiful. And you mentioned when you stitch, sometimes you'll put on a show. So do you have any favorite show or movie recommendations for us?
I'm rewatching.
Other than Agatha Raisin.
I'm rewatching How I Met Your Mother at the minute.
Yes.
I watched as it came out, but now I'm watching the binge watching.
How is it holding up? Is it as good as you remember?
Yeah, it's great. I mean, Barney could never get away with the things he got away now in the day.
That show couldn't fly today, I don't think.
That was, and then I've been watching The Traitors lately, which is like a reality show. There was a UK version around Christmas, it was fantastic. And now I saw there was a US one. So I've been, the UK one I think is better. They don't take it as seriously as the Americans, but it's.
I feel like American, I always seem to resonate more with the British, reality kinds of shows more than American ones. We recently watched a trailer for that, so maybe we have to check that out. Very cool. Well, thank you so much for chatting today. Is there anything you want to share before we sign off? Any final thoughts or advice for fellow stitchers?
Advice for fellow stitchers: just go for it. Try it. If it doesn't work, you can. Pick your stitches and try again. But no, thank you so much for having me and for creating this, world that brings so much happiness to us.
I'm so glad. Well, thanks for being a part of it. If anybody wants to connect with you, where's the best place to do that? Facebook community or Instagram?
Yeah, I have a little feed on Instagram. There is Mommy's Little Stitchery, which is a bit of a mouthful.
Cute. We'll definitely link that in the podcast description if anyone wants to. And we'll look forward to it. Perfect. We'll look forward to seeing you around the Stitch People community. Thank you so much for chatting.
Thank you. Lovely talking to you.
You too. And that is a wrap on my conversation with Alejandra. Do check out her Instagram and find her in the Stitch People community. Her portraits are so, so great. The Queen's Jubilee coronation portrait is so beautiful. You'll have to see it. Check out the blog post about this episode to see photos that she's given us to show off her portraits. And thank you just so much for listening and for being here. We really, really appreciate your support of the podcast, of Stitch People generally. It's so great to have you here enjoying conversations with Stitch People like you. If you could give us a like and a rating, hopefully a good rating, and subscribe, we would really appreciate it. It helps us with all the algorithms. If you have any feedback, thoughts, comments, questions, concerns, definitely go to stitchpeople.com/podcast to give that feedback to us. We want to hear from you. And again, thank you so much for your great participation in the Stitch People community. We really couldn't do it without each and every one of you helping to create the happiest place on the internet. Our music is by Jonathan Boyle. Our sound designer is Brandon Yost. And our wonderful Stitch People team that works behind the scenes really does help to make the magic happen. And I always want to express my appreciation for Teresa, Julian, Spencer, Rosie, and everybody that has helped Stitch People out along the way. Couldn't do it without you. Thanks so much for listening, everybody, and happy stitching. The Stitch People podcast is a production of Beansky LLC and Stitch People. Copyright 2022, all rights reserved.